web watchers, this is Morice here, and the other day Google told me I had to buy more email storage as it was literally overflowing with your event planning problems. That's depressing and expensive, so I think it's time for another One email from Wendy, new to event planning and confused in Singapore, asks if I can advise what questions she should ask the venue during her important site inspection when planning a big corporate meeting. Well, Wendy, here are some essential questions you need to ask your venue. Firstly, can I bring in my own vendors? You might be surprised that some venues restrict who can work in their building and that the venue will have a specific list of approved vendors. If there's a certain vendor that you know you'll need for the event, be sure the venue will approve of it up front and before signing the contract. Secondly, when can we begin setup and tear down? You want to know timing up front so that your vendors can give you an accurate bid based on the time frame. Be sure there aren't any hidden costs associated with this time frame and what it would cost to change the times if needed. Then you need to ask, where do we load in and who else will be loading in at the same time? It's always a good idea to tour the loading dock during your site visit. And the fourth question you should be asking is what costs are associated with electricity at your venue? At some locations, electricity can be added up very quickly. Be sure you know what these costs could be based on your event needs. And then you need to ask what permits are required to host an event at your location. Depending on the venue and your event details, you may need to obtain permits to legally hold your event. You need to determine which ones are needed and if you're responsible or if the venue handles permitting. Such permits might include alcohol, food, or entertainment. Then ask what areas can be utilized for back of house and storage. Especially if your event is a large production, this will be important. You need to plan for a place to store all your vendors' empty cases. And hopefully it doesn't have to be a room that you need to pay for. And what is the parking situation for vendors and attendees? This can be easily overlooked, but especially in large cities, both guests and vendors will need to know where to park and how much it will cost. Another important question to ask your venue is, are there any renovations or fire alarm drills scheduled during the time of your event? And if so, when? Nothing ruins an event quicker than a fire alarm going off during your event. And even worse, holding an event at a noisy construction site as renovation works progress. Also on your question checklist, you need to ask, is there enough space in the venue's restaurant to accommodate the group? And if not, what are the group dining options? And don't forget to ask, what other groups will be in the location of the space at the same time of your event? This is especially important to gauge how loud the venue will be during your event. If you're planning your corporate meeting, you don't want a concert happening at the same time in the room next to yours. And you don't want your competitor meeting next door too. Internet services at the venue may also be very important. Many events these days incorporate live video streaming. You always want to ask about internet speeds, paying special attention to how much bandwidth the venue can handle. And what about branding opportunities at the venue? Many venues these days have many locations that you can use for your branding. Also, accessibility and movement of your delegates is important. Ask what's the availability of elevators. You need to inquire about both the freight and guest elevators for your event. Are they easily accessed and working? Well, Wendy, new to event planning and confused in Singapore. I hope that some of these questions that I've suggested will help with your planning the corporate meeting. And remember, colour your life with conversation. If you've enjoyed watching Morice Meets, please subscribe to my channel by clicking this red bar below.